Brahmajnanatimandasya chinanslaka sakshmritam yena tasmai sruvena Chitchetayamanopistam stapitam yena bhutale svamrupadamyam dadati svapadantikam Vandeham shiru shiyudapatikamelam shirum vaishnavam sha Shri Rupam Jagajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sachivam Sadvaitam Savdutam Parjana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sankam Lalita Shakam Vitam Sa Hey Krishna Karuna Sinudina Bandhati Atpate Gopesh Gopka Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshvi Vrishabhana Sutta Devi Pranamama Haripriya Fanka Kotra Basha Kripa Sindhai Visha Patanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Namani Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Srila Prabhupada Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskachai Desatarana. Today we will continue with chapter 12 of the 11th canto, Beyond Renunciation and Knowledge.
Recording in progress.
And we will start with verse 9. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Yamna Yogena Sankhya Danavadatapo Tvarai Vyakya Svatsyaya Sanyasai Pramuya Yadnavanapi. Even though one engages with great endeavor in a mystic yoga system, philosophical speculation, charity, vows, penance, ritualistic sacrifices, teaching of Vedic mantras, to others, personal study of the Vedas or the renounced order of life, one still cannot achieve me. So this verse is similar to the first verse. The first verse, Lord Krishna explained so many activities, and he says, yeah, they will not bring me under. Such activities does not bring me under his control. But what brings me under control? That association with my pure devotees, destroy all material attachment. Such purifying association brings me under the control of my devotees. So Krishna is paving the way to expressing his appreciation for the love of the residents of Vrindavan, especially the gopis. Then we heard how many became devotees, not really by studying the Vedas, but by association with his pure devotees. And we heard examples. Vitrasura, in his previous life, associated with Narada Muni, Syangira Muni, Lord Sankarshampu. Prahlad with Narada Muni in the womb of his mother, Bali Maharaj with Prahlad Maharaj, Bibhishan with Ravan and Hanuman and so on. And I think we have also heard from the Pulindas So in the Bhaktivedanta, there we have also Buddha speaking about his relationships, of his experience with the Vrajavasis. And in yesterday we spoke about the Pulindis. This is mentioned in Bhaktivedanta, chapter 7, text 146. All those hundreds of thousands of women, knowing me as their most charming lover and ardently desire me that way, were unaware of my actual position. This is Lord Krishna speaking. Yet by intimately associating with me, they attained me, the supreme truth. So I will read the commentary of Bhaktivedanta here. The gopis fulfilled their highest ambition by achieving Krishna as their lover. Those coward women were so exalted that by personal contact with them, thousands of outcast women of Vraj, the Pulindis and the other aborigines achieved the same rarest goal of life. The word abala, women, in its literal sense means not strong, indicating that the aborigine women lacked the assets of knowledge, good birth, good behavior and devotion to God. They were ignorant of their own eternal identities as spirit soul, and because they had never come close enough to Nandamaraj village to see Krishna with their own eyes, they were also ignorant of Krishna's all-attractive beauty. Nonetheless, in the forest, the aborigine women of Vraj accidentally came in contact with grass and leaves smeared with kumkuma from the bodies of the gopis, and in this way gained the transcendental association of the gopis and also became infected with the desire to have Krishna as their lover. Or if we presume that the Pulindis and other aborigine women, simply by being born in Krishna's holy Dham, must have known that were eternal souls, their association with the gopis, even though indirect, infused them with sublime devotion to Krishna and made them forget whatever spiritual knowledge they had. They were also ignorant of who they were in another sense, taking no heed of their own dirtiness and their dingy complexions. They were helplessly impelled toward Krishna by the conjugal attraction they contracted from the gopis. The Pulindis and others may have been low-class tribal women, but they had the greatest fortune of being attracted to the supreme absolute truth, the darling son of Nanda Maharaj, and that attraction was extraordinary. They accepted him as the absolute master of their lives, and that too in the special mood that he was their unmarried lover. They had to keep their love for Krishna secret, because as outcasts they had little hope of ever meeting him, and if they did chance to meet him, that contact would be considered altogether illicit. Thus they privately cherished the treasure of prema within the cores of their hearts. At every moment they tasted newer and newer sweetness in the highest possible limits of blissful satisfaction. Having had some contact with the gopis, the aborigine women of Vraj all attained a perfection similar to theirs, if not in this life, then in the next. So this part of Bhagavatamrita speaks about the gopis' love, that and Krishna speaks about it. That makes it very special. And also the verses before. I just read first the verses of Brihad Bhagavatamrita. 143. The residents of Vrindavan, headed by the gopis, were always completely attached to me with deepest love. Therefore, when my uncle Akrura brought my brother Balaram and me to the city of Mathura, the residents of Vrindavan suffered extreme mental distress in separation from me and could not find any source of happiness. Text 144 of chapter 7. This is the second part of Bhagavatamrita. Dear Uddhav, all of those nights the gopis spent with me, their most dearly beloved, when I was present in Vrindavan, seemed to them to pass in less than a moment. But when bereft of my association, the gopis felt those same nights drag on forever. And if each night were equal to a day of Brahma. 145. My dear Uddhav, just as great sages in yoga trance merge into self-realization like rivers merging into the ocean and are thus unaware of material names and forms, the gopis of Vrindavan were so completely attached to me within their minds that they could not think of their own bodies, or in this world, or of their future lives. Their entire conscience was simply bound in me. So yes, the purports are also very important, and at the end of today, if we have time left, we will read them. But now first we continue with text 8, again about the residents of Vrindavan. Text 9, I mean. So I read the translation again. Even though one engages with great endeavor in the mystic yoga system, philosophical speculation, charity, vows, penances, ritualistic sacrifices, teaching of Vedic mantras to others, personal study of the Vedas or the renounced order of life, one still cannot achieve me. So the inhabitants of Vrindavan, such as the gopis, they did not know anything except Lord Krishna. Their whole purpose of life was simply to love Krishna, as indicated by the words Kevalena ibe bhavana. That we heard of the previous verse, but now can someone read the commentary which is on the screen of text 9, please?
Lord Krishna here explains it is very difficult to achieve his personal association, even for one who seriously endeavors to reach the absolute truth. The inhabitants of Vrindavan, such as the gopis and cows, were always living with Lord Krishna, and thus their association is called satsanga. Anyone who is favorably living with the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes sat, or eternal, and thus the association of such a person can immediately award others pure devotional service to the Lord. There is an austerity called Chandrayana, a fast in which one's intake of food is diminished by one mouthful each day as the moon wanes, and increased in the same way as the moon waxes. Similarly, there are painstaking ritualistic sacrifices and gruel studies of the Sanskrit Vedic mantras, which one may also teach to others. All these tedious activities cannot award the highest perfection of life, unless one gets the causeless mercy of the pure devotee, pure devotees of the Lord.
Yeah.
As stated in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 1-8, Dharmasu anustitaha pumsham vivekshana katho yaha notpadayat yatiratim shrama eva hi kevalam. The occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead.
Yes, thank you. So,
Thank you.
even if one carefully studies the atheistical theistic Sankhya philosophy, gives charity, observes vows, undergoes austerities, performs sacrifices, studies the Vedas, and explains the Vedic literature to others, one will still so again. So studies the Vedas and explains Vedic literature to others, one will still not attain the mercy of the Supreme Lord. This Bhaktivedanta Saraswati. But now, that's how we cannot achieve Him, but how to achieve Him. This is explained here in text 10. Ramena sardam maturam pranite sva falkina mayan rakta sita Vijadabhavena name vyoga Tivradayam tatrishu sukaya. One can read the translation, please.
The residents of Vrindavan, headed by the gopis, were always completely attracted to me with deepest love. Therefore, when my uncle Akrura brought my brother Balaram and me to the city of Mathura, the residents of Vrindavan suffered extreme mental distress because of separation from me and could not find any other source of happiness.
So, this verse we just read in Birad Bhagavatamrita. So it's quoted in Birad Bhagavatamrita, this verse. So anyone desiring true happiness must take to devotional service of the Lord in the spirit of the gopis. That giving up everything for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. I will read the purpose of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj. That no one who desires actual happiness can achieve his goal of life without engaging in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord, who is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. The gopis' attachment, whose attachment for Krishna was intense, felt unlimited distress because of separation of him when he and Balaram left for Mathura with Akrura. So now we have text 11. Yeah. Tastaksapa prestataminanita aiva vrindavana gocharana ksanaktavata punarangata sam vinamaya kalpa sama babhuva. Can someone read the translation, please?
Dear Uddhav, all those nights that the gopis spent with me, their most dearly beloved, in the land of Vrindavan, seemed to them to pass in less than a moment. Bereft of my association, however, the gopis felt that those same nights dragged on forever, as if each night were equal to a day of Brahma.
No, this is Sridhar Swami. The gopis suffered extreme anxiety in the absence of Lord Krishna, and though outwardly appearing bewildered, they actually achieved the highest stage of samadhi. Their consciousness was intensely and intimately attached to Lord Krishna, and by such Krishna consciousness their own bodies seemed very far away from them. Even though people normally consider their bodies to be the closest possession, in fact the gopis did not think about their own existence. Although a young woman normally considers her husband and children to be her dearmost possessions, the gopis did not even consider the existence of their so-called families. Just like great sages who become detached from the names and forms of the material world, the gopis could not think of anything because they were wrapped in loving remembrance of Lord Krishna. Thus a day of Brahma seemed a single moment for the gopis when Lord Krishna was present with them, and a single moment seemed like a day of Brahma when Lord Krishna was absent. The atmosphere of Vrindavan brings the greatest ecstasy, which is not possible in Mathura. That's a secret text. Tanavidanmaya nusangrabhadadya svamanatmanamadastatvedam yata samadamanayo buddhoye natya pravishta ivanamarupe. Translation, please.
My dear Uddhava, just as great sages in yoga trance merge into self-realization, like rivers merging into the ocean, and are thus not aware of material names and forms, similarly, the gopis of Vrindavan were so completely attached to me within their minds that they could not think of their own bodies, or of this world, or of their future lives. Their entire consciousness was simply bound up in me.
So, yeah, we heard that before, we heard Bhaktivedanta here also. That, yes, Lord Krishna, Srila Prabhupada writes, Lord Krishna is the source of everything, and the gopis are the Lord's own potency. Thus there is no discrepancy or immorality in the almighty personality of Godhead's loving affairs with his own manifest potency, the gopis, who happen to be the most beautiful young girls in the creation. There is no illusion on the part of the gopis, for they are so attracted to Lord Krishna that they do not care to think of anything else. The gopis rejected whatever impeded their concentration on Lord Krishna, cursing even their own eyelids, which blinked and thus removed Krishna from their sight for a split second. So Srila Rupa Goswami has stated that all sincere devotees of the Lord should have the courage to remove from their lives anything that impedes their progressive march back home, back to Godhead. That is Rupa Goswami's advice. Text 13. Matkama-ramanam charam asvarupa vidobala brahmaman paramam prabhu sanghashata sahasraja. Yes.
All those hundreds and thousands of gopis, understanding me to be their most charming lover and adherently desiring me in that way, were unaware of my actual position. Yet by intimately associating with me, the gopis attained me, the supreme absolute truth.
Yeah. So, also this verse is quoted in Priyat Bhagavatamrita about the Pulingas. So we have text 13 and Bhaktivedanta. Because of their strong desire to please Krishna, the gopis who were completely absorbed in the service of the Lord had only one goal in life, attaining the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The gopis were many, and the Lord was one. Following their example, innumerable persons of similar nature attained the association of the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Personality of God, Sri Krishna. Although from an external point of view, the gopis may be considered as women attached to a man other than their husband, because they took shelter of the Supreme Enjoyer, their conduct is always to be glorified. Now the next verse will remind us of 1866 Bhagavad Gita. I read the verse, the two verses. Tasmat vamudavotshitya shodanam pratichodanam pavitim shani vritim shan shotavyam shutamevacha mamekam saranam vacha atmanam savadenam yai savatma bhavinam ayasyayu yakuto vayam. Translation, please.
Thereafter, my dear Uddhava, abandon the Vedic mantras as well as the procedures of supplementary Vedic literatures and their positive and negative injunctions. Disregard that which has been heard and that which is to be heard. Simply take shelter of me alone, for I am the Supreme Personality of God, situated within the heart of all conditioned souls. Take shelter of me wholeheartedly, and by my grace be free from fear in all circumstances.
Thank you so much, Chaitanya. Good. Yeah, this verse, abandon the Vedic mantras and so on, looks like Sarvadhaman Pritchaya, and also that, yeah, disregard as has been heard and so on. It's like 245 Bhagavad Gita, Nistra Guna Vishaya Veda, get over the three modes. So, according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Lord Krishna previously kept the gopis' love for him concealed in his heart because of its confidential nature and the Lord's own gravity. But finally, Lord Krishna could not remain silent about the intense love of the gopis. And thus in these verses the Lord reveals to Uddhav how the gopis loved him in Vrindavan and brought him fully under their control. The Lord would relax in secret places with the loving gopis, and by conjugal spontaneous affection the greatest love was exchanged between them. Now can someone read the second paragraph of the purport, which is just fitting on the screen now?
As explained by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita, one cannot achieve the perfection of life merely by renouncing the material world or by executing ordinary sectarian religious principles. One must actually understand the identity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and by associating with His pure devotees, one must learn to love the Lord in His personal original form. This love may be expressed in either the conjugal, parental, fraternal, or serving rasa or relationship. The Lord has elaborately explained to Uddhava the system of philosophical analysis of the material world. And now he clearly concludes that it is useless for Uddhava to waste time in fruitive activities or mental speculation. Actually, Lord Krishna is hinting that Uddhava should assimilate the example of the gopis and try to advance further in Krishna consciousness by following in the footsteps of the powerful damsels of Braja. Any conditioned soul who is unsatisfied with the cruel laws of nature, which impose disease, old age, and death, should understand that Lord Krishna can deliver all living beings from the problems of material existence. There is no need to entangle oneself in unauthorized sectarian rituals, injunctions, or prohibitions. One should simply surrender to Lord Krishna, following the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Lord Krishna himself. By authorized, regulated process of Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness, one easily achieves spiritual perfection.
So Lord Krishna, thank you. Lord Krishna in this verse factually explains to Uddhav how to follow in the footsteps of the gopis. Therefore it's so important. Therefore I will also read Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Bhaktivedanta's purport. After Sri Uddhav had inquired about the characteristics of a saintly person, the Supreme Lord Krishna described the characteristics of two classes of transcendentalists, the methods for executing devotional service in the association of devotees, and how devotional service has the power to control him. The Lord next described the good qualities of the devotees and concluded that the gopis' devotion to him is the topmost platform of love of God. The Lord further described how, when he was taken along with Balaram by Akrura to Mathura, the gopis shed incessant tears due to impending separation from him. The gopis were greatly agitated due to feelings of ecstatic love in separation from the Lord, and thus their devotional service could control him. Here Lord Sri Krishna is trying to inspire Uddhav to follow in the footsteps of the gopis, and thus render their devotional service as they did. So Krishna said to Uddhav, give up the rules and regulations prescribed in the scripture, and give up all recommended and prohibited activities mentioned in the Vedas. Does this mean that Uddhav should take sannyas? No, it means that he should give up the activities that are prescribed for both householders and sannyasis, and he should become indifferent to all that has been heard and as well as that may be heard in the future. In this way, Uddhav should abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender to Krishna in the mood of one of the 5 phrases. Then he will have no fear. By Krishna's mercy, he should not think that he will be the loser by rejecting fruitive activities and the cultivation of knowledge. The Supreme Lord is there to protect his devotees from all types of fearful conditions. And then Bhaktivedanta says, after carefully deliberating on that which was spoken by the Supreme Lord, one should simply surrender himself at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, knowing that this will eradicate all lamentation, illusion and fear. Taking shelter of too many persons will not award one any real benefit. Rather, by taking shelter of the son of the king of Vraj alone, who is one without a second, one will easily be liberated from the hands of all auspiciousness. Yeah. So, text 16. Shyudava uvacha samsaya shimato vacham tata yogeshvarishvara nani vartata atmasto yena brahmyati memana. So I read the translation, please.
Sri Uddhava said, O Lord of all masters of mystic powers, I have heard your words, but the doubt in my heart does not go away. Thus, my mind is bewildered.
Yeah. This was text 16. So, thus my mind is bewildered. So, in the first, this purport is interesting because in the first part of the purport, you find a summary of verse 10 and 11. We will not read it, but how one goes from Karma Mishra Bhakti to Jnana Mishra Bhakti. Yeah, it's good to read it. Yeah, otherwise we may skip something important. Can someone read the purport, please?
In the first verse of the 10th chapter of this canto, the Lord stated that one should take shelter of him and execute one's duties within the Varnashram system without material desire. Uddhava interpreted this statement as recommending karma mishra bhakti, or devotional service mixed with a tendency towards fruitive activities. It is a fact that until one understands Lord Krishna to be everything, it is not possible to retire from ordinary worldly duties. Rather, one is encouraged to offer the fruits of such work to the Lord. In verse 4 of the 10th chapter, the Lord recommended that one retire from worldly duties and systematically cultivate knowledge, accepting Him as the Supreme. Uddhava understood this instruction to indicate Jnana Mishra Bhakti, or devotional service to the Lord mixed with the secondary desire to accumulate knowledge. Beginning with verse 35 of the 10th chapter, Uddhava inquired about the process of material conditioning and liberation from material life. The Lord replied elaborately, stating that without devotional service, the process of philosophical speculation can never be perfected. In chapter 11, verse 18, the Lord emphasized the importance of faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and in verse 23, Krishna extensively widened his discussion of devotional service, emphasizing that one should be faithful and hear and chant the glories of the Lord. The Lord concluded that both the development and perfection of devotional service depend on association with the devotees. In verse 26 of the 11th chapter, Uddhava inquired about the actual ways and means of devotional service and about the symptoms of devotional perfection. And in verse 48, Lord Krishna stated that unless one takes to the process of devotional service, one's attempt for liberation will be useless. One must associate with the devotees of the Lord and follow in their footsteps. Finally, in verse 14 of this chapter, the Lord categorically rejected the paths of fruitive activities and mental speculation, and in verse 15 recommended that one exclusively surrender unto Him with all one's heart.
Yeah. Please continue.
Having received such elaborate and technical instructions on the perfection of life, Uddhava is bewildered, and his mind is afflicted with doubt about what he should actually do. Lord Krishna has described many procedures and the results of such procedures, all of which ultimately lead to the single goal of Lord Krishna himself. Uddhava therefore desires that Lord Krishna state in simple terms what should be done. Arjuna makes a similar request of the Lord at the beginning of the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Uddhava is stating here, "My dear friend Krishna, first you recommended that I perform worldly activities within the Varnashram system, and then you advised that I reject such activities and take to the path of philosophical research. Now, rejecting the path of Jnana, you recommend that I simply surrender unto you in Bhakti Yoga. If I accept your decision, in the future you may again go back to your original point and recommend worldly activities." By his boldness in disclosing his mind, Uddhava reveals his intimate friendship with Lord Krishna.
Yeah, so this second part, last paragraph, explains very clearly Uddhava's doubts. That it is a fact that unless one understands Lord Krishna to be everything, it is not possible to retire from all ordinary worldly duties. So one must ready to be surrendered, in other words. Rather, if one is not on that platform to surrender, one is encouraged to offer the fruits of such work to the Lord, and so on. So we have also here a comment of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, but it's this commentary from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is completely integrated in what we just read. So we can go to 17. Shri Bhagavana Vacha Saiva Jiva Vishvaro Prashuti Pranena Goshena Gunam Pravishta Manomayam Suksmanapeta Rupan Atras Varo Varna Iti Svat Stavista. Yes, please.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Uddhava, the Supreme Lord gives life to every living being and is situated within the heart along with the life air and primeval sound vibration. The Lord can be perceived in his subtle form within the heart by one's mind, since the Lord controls the minds of everyone, even great demigods like Lord Shiva. The Supreme Lord also assumes a gross form as the various sounds of the Vedas, composed of short and long vowels and consonants of different intonation.
Yes, thank you. So all these processes means devotion, service, speculative knowledge, renunciation, mystic curiosity, austerity, pious duties, and so on, are meant to help the living entities to obtain the shelter of Krishna. And ultimately, no Vedic process should be understood in any other way. And that clears the doubts of Arjuna. So I read it once again. All these processes, devotional service, speculative knowledge, renunciation, mystic yoga, austerity, pious duties, and so on, are meant to help the living entity obtain the shelter of Lord Krishna, and ultimately no Vedic process should be understood in any other way. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, the Lord, with light-hearted and encouraging words, revealed to Uddhav the deep purpose behind a variety of Vedic procedures. The Lord spoke it as guidance for all living entities in different situations. Now, we have the second paragraph here. Lord Krishna became manifest from the mouth of Brahma. Can someone read that second paragraph?
Lord Krishna became manifest from the mouth of Lord Brahma in the form of the Vedas. The word Vivar Prasuti in this verse also indicates that the Lord is manifest within the Adharadi Chakra, situated within the body of Lord Brahma. The word Ghoshena means subtle sound, and Guham Pravishta also indicates that Lord Krishna enters within the Adhar Chakra. The Lord can further be perceived within other chakras such as Manipura Chakra, located around the navel, and Vishuddhi Chakra. The Sanskrit alphabet is composed of short and long vowels and consonants pronounced with high and low tones. And utilizing these vibrations, the different branches of Vedic literatures are manifested as a gross form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to Bhagavad Gita, such literatures deal mostly with the three modes of material nature: Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nistraigunya Bhava Arjuni. Srila Shiradhar Swami explains that due to the control of the illusory energy, Maya, the personality of Godhead appears to the conditioned souls as part of the material universe. The imagined imposition of gross and subtle material qualities on the personality of Godhead is called avidya or ignorance. And through such ignorance, the living entity considers himself to be the doer of his own activities and becomes bound up in the network of karma. The Vedas therefore order an entangled soul to observe positive and negative injunctions to purify his existence. These procedures are called pravritti marga, or the path of regulated fruitive activities. When one has purified one's existence, one gives up this gross stage of fruitive activities because it is detrimental to the practice of pure devotional service. By firm faith, one may then worship the personality of Godhead. One who has developed perfect Krishna consciousness no longer has to perform ritualistic duties. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, tasya karyam na vidyate.
So this is quite a technical paragraph on the different chakras and how one can see Krishna in each of these chakras. That in paragraph 3, the next paragraph, the Shiva Goswami, it gives different ways in which this verse can be understood. But I would like to read the purport on this verse of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj. When Krishna and Balaram left for Mathura, the gopis became greatly afflicted due to the pain of separation from Krishna. They could not imagine any other source of happiness than the association of Krishna. This has been described in the 10th verse. In the 13th verse of this chapter, the purport of all Vedic literatures has been explained. Then in 2 verses, the supremacy of the Supreme Lord has been described. The Lord is the ultimate shelter of everyone, and all the Vedic mantras are transcendental sound vibrations that have emanated from him. Srila Sridhar Swamin has described the word vivara as meaning the basis of everything. This has been elaborately discussed in verses 36 to 47 of the 21st chapter of the 11th canto. Transcendental sound vibration appear in two forms, gross and subtle. From the subtle form, in the life air, intelligence and the mind are manifested. From the gross form, the senses, the para, pashanti, madhyama and vaikari manifest. The mind and the senses are particularly described as para and pranayami. When subtle substance is associated with the transcendental sound vibration, it is known as manomayi pashanti. When pranam or om is manifested, it is called buddhimayi madhyama. When pranam transforms into alphabets, is called vaikari. Vaikari produces different meters such as priyati. It's very technical. The 10th verse presents another meaning. The Supreme Personality of Godhead in the life and soul of Vraj. Although Lord Krishna eternally performs his pastimes in the spiritual world beyond the vision of the conditioned souls, he also enters within the material universe to display these same pastimes. The words Guyam Pravishta indicates that after displaying such pastimes, the Lord withdraws them and enters into his unmanifest pastimes, or those pastimes not manifest to the conditioned souls. In this case, Matra indicates the transcendental senses of the Lord. Svara indicates the Lord's transcendental sound vibration, and singing the word Varna indicates the transcendental form of the Lord. The word Stavita, or gross manifestation, means that the Lord becomes manifest in the material world, even to those devotees who are not completely advanced in Krishna consciousness and whose vision is not completely purified. Manomaya indicates that somehow or other Lord Krishna is to be kept within one's mind, and for the non-devotees Lord Krishna is Sukshma, or the most subtle, because he cannot be known. Good text. Yeah, this text 17 is more or less an introduction to text 18, really. And and text 18 is more understandable. This was very technical. Yata nalake nilabando shma palena daruni atimatyamaha anupachato avisa sameda tatev me vyaktiryam ivani. Translation, please.
When sticks of
Sorry, go ahead, Prabhu.
carry on, Mataji.
When sticks of kindling wood are vigorously rubbed together, heat is produced by contact with air, and a spark of fire appears. Once the fire is kindled, ghee is added and the fire blazes. Similarly, I become manifest in the sound vibration of the Veda.
So, this, in the purport, this verse is explained and explains the progression of being spiritual advanced as represented by the Vedas, the progression of spiritual advancement. And we have a comment here, a short comment of Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj. The pastimes of the Supreme Lord become manifest when there is glorification of the Lord in the association of devotees. Just as fire, which remains in an unmanifest state, is produced by the friction of two pieces of wood, then becomes a blazing fire with the help of air and ghee. The manifestation of the Lord's pastimes, along with his names, forms and qualities, is realized by means of kirtan, Simply by the chanting of the holy name of Krishna, his forms, qualities and pastimes, they become manifest. Text 19. Evam gati karma gati vishago gano rasudrik sparsa shutusha sankalpa vihyanam atabhimana shutam rajasatvo tamo vikara. So, translation please.
The functions of the working senses, the organ of speech, the hands, the legs, the genital and the anus, and the functions of the knowledge-acquiring senses, the nose, tongue, eyes, skin, and ears, along with the functions of the subtle senses of mind, intelligence, consciousness, and false ego, as well as the function of the subtle pradhan and the interaction of the three modes of material nature, all these should be understood as my materially manifest form.
So, what's the purpose of this verse? Is that a Krishna conscious person, he sees the material world as a manifestation of the Lord's potencies. There is therefore no legitimate scope for material sense gratification, because everything is an expansion of the Supreme Personality of God that then belongs to Him. So in the material world, the living entity dreams that he is the Lord, but the same person gives up this hallucination and therefore he turns home, back to Godhead. Now, in the commentary of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explains how speech, which is mentioned in this verse, speech is measured in four phases. So we have here this purport which is on the screen. Yeah. Can someone read it, please? No need to read all the Sanskrit, just the translation.
Just as the Vedas, which arise from my form, appeared from the body of Brahma, material sound arises from the body of material persons in a corrupted form. Gadi refers to speech using the material voice. Shruti says, wise men know the four aspects of speech. They do not reveal the three hidden in the body. Men speak the fourth form, Rig Veda 1:164:22. The meaning is this: speech is measured in four phases. Three are called para, situated in prana at the base of the spine, Pashyanti, situated in the mind. Spine is Pashyanti, situated in the mind and the navel, and Madhyam, situated in intelligence in the heart. The sages do not reveal their forms. The fourth, called Vaikari, is speech in the vocal organ. Mm-hmm. Just as speech is manifested from me, the actions of all the senses of the total and individual jivas are manifested from Prakriti. Action is the function of the hands. Movement is the action of the feet. Excretion is the function of the anus and genital. These are all action senses. Smell is the function of the nose. Taste is the function of the tongue. Seeing is the function of the eye. Touch is the function of the skin. Hearing, the function of the ears. These are knowledge senses. Decision is the function of the mind. Discrimination is the function of intelligence and chitta. Identity is the function of ahankara. Sutra or mahatattva is the function of pradhan. The transformations of rajas, sattva and tamas are adhyatma, adideva and adibhuta. All of these are manifestations of matter. The statement is a continuation of the last verse.
Yes, that brings us back to the creation with all the different aspects, how everything is an energy and a potency from Krishna. Now text 20. Ajamichi vastri vidabhyajoni ravyaktaiko vyayasa sadatya vislista saktir baudeva bhati vijani jonim pratipatchayat. Translation, please.
When many seeds are placed in an agricultural field, innumerable manifestation of trees, bushes, vegetables, and so on will arise from a single source, the soil. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who gives life to all and is eternal, originally exists beyond the scope of the cosmic manifestation. In the course of time, however, the Lord, who is the resting place of the three modes of nature and the source of the universal lotus flower, in which the cosmic manifestation takes place, divides his material potencies and thus appears to be manifest in innumerable forms, although he is one.
So everything is coming from Krishna, and everything is maintained by him. That through the last two verses of the purport, from the example of the seed sown in an agricultural field, we can understand that innumerable manifestations may arise from a single source. Similarly, although the Lord is one, he becomes manifest in innumerable forms through the expansion of his different potencies throughout the material world in all its aspects, in an expansion of the energy of the Lord. So, now, text 21, it is about the tree producing fruit, and the tree is the body. Yasmin nidam potom mashe samutam pato yatotam tavitana samsta yaisa samsarata upurana kamat makapot pushpafale pashuti. Translation, please.
Just as a wooden cloth rests on the expansion of lengthwise and crosswise thread, similarly, the entire universe is expanded on the lengthwise and crosswise potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is situated within him. The conditioned souls have been accepting material bodies since time immemorial, and these bodies are like great trees sustaining one's material existence. Just as a tree first blooms and then produces fruits, similarly, the trees of material existence, one's material body, produce the various results of material existence.
Thank you, Prophet. So, we had many bodies in the past which have produced fruits. We still get the fruits of these bodies. But before a tree produces fruit, blossoms appear. Similarly, the word Pushpafali, according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, indicates the happiness and distress of material existence. One's material life may appear to be blossoming, but ultimately there will appear to be bitter fruits or other catastrophes, Srila Prabhupada writes. Yeah. So attachment to the material body is always inclined towards sense gratification, and it is the root of our material existence. The material universe is an expansion of the illusory potency of the Supreme Lord, and is always dependent on him and on the different from him. This simple understanding can relieve the conditioned soul from endless wandering in the unhappy kingdom of Maya. So the word Pushpafala may also be understood as meaning sense gratification and liberation. So that is the body that the gopis forgot when they were attracted to Krishna. Then text 22-23. Can someone read the purport, please? the translation, I mean, only the translation.
This tree of material existence has 2 seeds, hundreds of roots, 3 lower trunks, and 5 upper trunks. It produces 5 flavors and has 11 branches and a nest made by 2 birds. The tree is covered by 3 types of bark, gives 2 fruits, and extends up to the sun. Those lusty after material enjoyment and dedicated to family life enjoy one of the 3 fruits, and swan-like men in renounced order of life enjoy the other fruit. One who, with the help of bona fide spiritual master, can understand this tree to be manifestation of the potency of one supreme truth, appearing in many forms, actually knows the meaning of the Vedic literature.
Yes. So I'll give a summary of what this verse is explaining. So the tree gives 2 seeds, and these 2 seeds are the pious and sinful activities we perform. And the 100 roots are all the living entities' innumerable material desires. So, and the tree produces 5 flavors. Yeah, the body of the tree gives sound, form, touch, taste, aroma. And it has 11 branches, 5 working senses, 5 knowledge acquiring senses, and the mind. It looks like Sankhya, 24 elements. But there are 2 birds in the tree, the individual soul and the super soul, and they both have made their nest in the tree. And there are 3 types of bark: air, bile, and mucus. These are the 3 constituent elements of the body. 2 types of fruits you get from the tree: happiness and distress. More distress than happiness, I think. But that is what this verse is explaining. And I will read Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's purport on this verse. In this verse, the tree of material existence is being described. That it describes what I just have explained. We are not going to repeat that, but I read the purport of Bhaktivedanta Sarasvati Maharaj. All gross and subtle forms of existence and the tree of material existence itself, which is born from karma performed since time immemorial, are inseparably connected to each other, just like the horizontal and vertical threads of a cloth. The Supreme Lord is the origin of the cause of the creation, in the form of Brahma, and the effect in the form of the universe. The tree of material existence produces flowers in the form of material happiness and distress, and fruits in the form of bondage and liberation. By the influence of karma, piety and impiety are created. Material desires are the cause of committing pious and sinful activities. The 3 trunks of this tree are the 3 modes of nature, and the 5 material elements are its branches, and the 11 senses are its sub-branches. Happiness and distress are the fruits of this tree that are tasted by the conditioned soul. There is a nest in the tree of material existence, wherein 2 birds, the individual and the super soul, reside. Air, bile, and mucus are the coverings of the tree bark. Material universe extends up to the sun. Those who are attracted to sense enjoyment must suffer distress under the control of material desires. Those in the renounced order of life who are free from all desires for temporary sense gratification enjoy happiness in this life. When one can see the Supreme Lord as the ultimate cause of everything, then this knowledge is perfect. So we are coming to the last verse of the chapter, verse 24. Evam Gurupa Sanaya Bhaktya Vitya Kutarena Sitena Dira Vishishya jivasayam apramata sampatya chatmanam atma atatyayasram. Summary translation.
With steady intelligence, you should develop unalloyed devotional service by careful worship of the spiritual master. And with the sharp, sharpened axe of transcendental knowledge, you should cut off the subtle material covering of the soul. Upon realizing the supreme personality of Godhead, you should then give up that axe of an knowledge, analytic knowledge.
Yeah. So, Lord Krishna concludes, Prema is a higher realization than analytical knowledge. We heard all this analytical knowledge, now he said, but Prema is higher to clear out the doubts of Uddhav. That, so, I will read the commentary and purport of Srila Vishwanath and Bhaktivedanta. Lord Krishna said to Uddhav, try to understand that this tree of material existence and thus make your life successful. By the sharp axe of such knowledge you can cut to pieces your gross and subtle bodies, which are manifestations of the three modes of material nature. After attaining realization of the supersoul, you can then discard the weapon of transcendental knowledge. Whatever I'm speaking is just what I taught Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. That's what Srila Vishwanath wrote. And Bhaktivedanta says, an intelligent person desirous of freedom from material existence should take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master and render service to him. Consider him to be the topmost devotee of the Supreme Lord. While engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, one should destroy all obstacles with the axe of transcendental knowledge. In this way, one can come to transcend to the three modes of material nature. By awakening knowledge of one's relationship with the Supreme Lord, one can become free from material bondage and attain all auspiciousness by engaging in the devotional service of the Lord. So the purpose is to come to engage in pure love of Krishna. So one gets, in a purpose, Srila Prabhupada writes, to conclude, one gets the strength to sharpen the sword of knowledge by the instructions of the spiritual master. And then Balaram gives you the strength, Asyuta Bala, to use this sword. The Guru is also representative of Balaram. So this is the end of this chapter. So it's now, let's see, 4:07. So we will resume at 4:20. We will have a break here for 10 minutes and then resume. Thank you very much.
Recording in progress.
Hare Krishna. So we can resume. If there are any comments or questions, please. Yes, Pavitra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the wonderful explanation. Maharaj, I'm in doubt. I don't understand the real meaning of beyond renunciation and knowledge. What does it mean?
Say that again. You beyond pronunciation of knowledge. What is
Yeah,
beyond? What does it
beyond.
mean?
Yes,
Beyond.
Maharaj.
Beyond. Yeah. Okay. Beyond. Yes. The first one must renounce this world and come to the platform of liberation, and then you can develop love for Krishna. So in this chapter, Krishna speaks beyond liberation, the love of the gopis, that which is the highest. That so yes, that's beyond liberation. First, we must give up our attachment for this world and become attached to Krishna. Liberation is prashanatma, that Brahma Bhuta prashanatma srishti nakangsti. We are not lamenting anymore and not hankering for anything in this world. Then you are ready to go beyond liberation and develop this pure love for Krishna. But of course, before liberation, we are also practicing devotional service, but like I have explained, that is like a child who gets from the mother an imitation kitchen, and the child is cooking on the imitation kitchen, and that imitating the mother. So that's in practice. That is what we do before liberation. But we have to go beyond it, and then we can give attention with our mind to Krishna. That's the first thing. That full attention can only be given beyond liberation. And then when you give that full attention, then you can meditate without interruption and give your love. But that happens beyond liberation. Does that help, Pavitra Prabhu?
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. So, any other points? It's a high level chapter, I must say, but a very interesting chapter. Mother Lalita Priti Maya, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I'm not really clear with this concept of like sharpening the axe and giving up the axe of analytical knowledge. So, like you just said that sharpening axe is with the instructions of spiritual master and following it. And here it is telling that to give up the axe of analytic knowledge. Um, and even in the purport, it's given that give up the acts of analytic knowledge by which you have cut down your sense of proprietorship and residence in the material world.
Yeah.
My confusion is like when we know that we are not the proprietor of this body or anything, then only our axe becomes sharp, right? So how do we? So I'm not clear with this concept.
Yeah. So first one must get the sort of knowledge from the spiritual master. That's the first thing. Transcendental knowledge. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4. Dat vinapana pratna pariprasna sevya protection techam jnanastat pradashan. So the spiritual master gives you knowledge how to practice devotional service and what to do, what not to do, pravritta, nivritta, what to do, what is binding, what is not binding, what is favorable for devotional service, what's not favorable for devotional service. So we get this knowledge. And like Krishna says in 4:11, 4:10, Vitarag Vayakta Manmayamam Bhava, Vitarag Vayakta Manmayamam Upashrita, Bhavagana Tapasa Pudmatmavam Agatam. What's the result? You become free, and what you become pure. That you become pure if you use this knowledge. But using this knowledge, the knowledge is compared as a sword, but you must use it, and And the power to use that sword is given by Krishna through the heart. The Dhammi Buddhi Yogamtam, it gives you the realization, the power to use it. And that comes from Balaram, it said. And then by executing these instructions, you use this sword. And that Vitarag Bhayakoda, the heart becomes purified from attachment, fear and anger. And then by this realized knowledge, the heart becomes purified. And when the heart is completely purified, then one attains liberation. One has done it. One has killed the subtle body. The job is done. Then you don't need a sword anymore. You throw it away. That these lower instructions, these are lower instructions, but the higher instructions is the knowledge of devotional service that we never throw away. But that knowledge for liberation, that's another thing. That how to perform devotional service, that's knowledge you use even after liberation, that you maintain. But that lower knowledge, that I'm not a body, these gopis we have heard here, they forget completely that they are this body. They forget their families, all these things, that they are so fixed on Krishna. They forget all these things. So they don't have these attachment anymore. That makes them so special. Just by becoming attracted to Krishna, they renounce their family and so on. And that was a problem in Vrindavan, because all these gopis, their mothers-in-law, they were worried, and they said, these gopis, they have really no interest in their husbands, complete gone. Some of these mother-in-laws went to Mother Mangal and said, we have a problem here. And Mother Mangal said, yeah, because they knew that Mother Mangal, he was a Brahmin, he knew all these sacrifice of the Vedas, and these mothers-in-law said, is there no sacrifice you can do or something? And Mother Mangal says, yes, there is a sacrifice. You ask your mother, because all these mothers-in-law, they kept their daughters at home. They could not go to the forest to see Krishna. And Mother Mangal said to this mothers-in-law, you know, that you ask them to, your daughter-in-law to worship the sun god. But that has to be done in the forest. So you have to allow them to go to the forest and collect all the herbs and fruits, and then do the offering with a specialized Brahmin. So by that, Mother Mangal arranged that they could go to the forest and see Krishna on the way. And then one time Jatila came with them. I think this is in Lalita Madhava. That came anyway. And they were on the way to worship the sun god, and they needed a Brahmin, and there were two Brahmins invited, and one of the Brahmins was Krishna, disguised. So he performed the whole thing, but anyway, they never got interest in their so-called husbands. And that's one of the attachment, the most difficult attachment to break in this life. That's difficult to give up the attachment to family, but they have completely forgotten about it. So that makes them so special, and that is described also in these chapters here. Does that help to understand? this point?
Yes, yes, Maharaj, it's clear now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Stop. The Prabhupada Priya, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Yeah, it's interesting, and I'm wondering why Krishna, after speaking very intimately with Uddhava, and he's speaking in the first person, right? Like, serve me, take shelter of me, and become my devotee, and all this. And then after he starts talking in the third person, about the Supreme Personality of Godhead gives life to the universe, and everything is resting on the Supreme Personality of Godhead as if it's someone else.
Yeah.
And I was remembering that he does the same thing in the Bhagavad Gita in 18th chapter.
Yeah.
He's like, just take shelter of me, you'll cross all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. And then he says that the super souls in everyone's heart take shelter of him, surrender to him utterly. So why does Krishna do that?
Yeah, because he may do that for different reasons. In Bhagavad Gita, the jnanis, they accept Krishna as transcendental, but higher is Brahman, or a higher aspect is the super soul. You have different speculations, and Krishna does not want to disturb them also. So therefore he speaks in the third person. Then first, but he says clearly, Sarvam Prachinamam comes from Vacha. You see the same thing when Krishna went to see Mahavishnu. He was glorifying Mahavishnu as the Supreme Personality of God. That like he was an expansion of Mahavishnu. But then in the purport, why did Mahavishnu stole these children of this Brahman 10 times? Because he wanted to see Krishna. Why would he want to see Krishna? What's so special of him? If he's the Supreme Personality of God and then higher. No, Krishna is the source of everything. A second point I was thinking of is Krishna's humility. That he likes to stay at the background. So he says, when he speaks about his expansion of the super soul and Brahman, that's but he's saying, I'm the super soul in everyone's heart, very clearly. Then he speaks about the super soul as being separate from him. That's one and different at the same time, because it's also separate from him, but it's one and the same at the same time, and that's where our brain gets in conflict, and with logic you cannot understand it anymore. But by analogies we can understand that, like Prabhupada explains, is one in different, one in quality, different in quantity, is like like the sun disk and the sunshine, and then the deity of the sun, the tree, and they are related because without sunshine, the sunshine is the energy of the Lord, and and anyway, by that we can understand that to some extent. Yeah, maybe there are other points, but what do you think, Mother Prabhupada?
Yeah, I was also thinking that because he's speaking to Uddhava, so his relationship with Uddhava is one thing, it's very intimate. But then he's also imparting these instructions for, intentionally for the sages of Badrikashram.
Yeah.
So probably some of them are not, on the level of Uddhava, they're, jnanis, or they're worshipping, yogis. So then, similar to Bhagavad Gita, where he outlines the different yoga systems, and then if anyone got stuck on dhyana yoga, then okay, then you surrender to the super soul. So,
that is a very good point. All these sages were certainly not pure devotees, and they are they have different understandings of the absolute truth. And therefore it's so important that we get the Sambandha Gyan clear. And the Sambandha Gyan is from the beginning very clearly explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah, good. Thank you, Mother Prabhupada. Something else you want to say? Okay, Mother Kasturica, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I have a question, but not in today's topic,
Yeah,
but from Canto 11. Is it okay?
yeah,
I read Prabhupada saying in one of the purports, worshippers of impersonalists like Dattatreya are also called as Pasandis. And that's a very heavy statement because in Canto 11 we are studying the 24 Gurus, and this Avadhuta Brahmana is none other but Dattatreya. So, how do we understand this?
yeah, but where is that mentioned?
This is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya
Yeah,
Leela 18.115 when
yeah,
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes to Vrindavan.
yeah. I cannot comment on that because Dattatreya is an expansion of the Supreme Lord. That it could be that it plays the role of an impersonalist, but that's not clear to me. That the first question is it referring to the same person? I don't know. That I don't know. I've not read that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that I remember. That do you have an idea where it is in Chaitanya Charitamrita? Madhya, okay.
It's in Madhya Leela, Madhya 18.115 in the purport.
I will bring it on the screen. Madhya 1815. Madhya 18. Mm-hmm. Contents. Madhya 18. 115. Yep. I'll share it with you. Here it is. A foolish person who says that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the same as a living entity is an atheist, and he becomes subject to the punishment of the Superintendent of the Yamaraj. Srila Bhaktivedanta Sarasvati Thakur says that a Pasandi refers to one who considers the living entity under the control of the illusory energy to be equal with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to all material qualities. Another Pashanti is one who do not believe the super soul, the superior potency of the Lord, and therefore does not distinguish between spirit and matter. While one of the offenses against the holy name, especially the offense called Shruti Shastra Ninda, Shiva Goswami states in Bhakti Sandarbha, worshippers of impersonalists like Dattatreya are also Pasandis concerning the offense, and so He says impersonal is like Dattatreya, but there are many with the name Dattatreya. Who is that? That we think maybe that's the Dattatreya is an avatar of Krishna, as described in the 11th canto. But I think this needs more details. Worshippers of impersonal is like Dattatreya. Yeah. I cannot say because we have to know who this Dattatreya is. That's the point. That's okay? Let's do it.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, then Mother Prabhupada Priya again, please.
I do have something else to say on that previous point.
Yeah, okay, that's good.
I was thinking that because Krishna had just spoken, about the gopis of Vrindavan, which is a very, intimate and topic, very like intense topic for him. So I was thinking that it could be that Krishna's getting a little emotional, and when Uddhava, he kind of winds it up, in text 14 to 15, but then Uddhava, he wants to hear more. He's kind of like and it's funny because Krishna made it very clear. Like it's hard to understand what Uddhava's doubts are at that point. Like it's crystal clear, like bhakti, full surrender, think of me. Yeah. But still he's saying, I have a doubt. It's almost like he just wants to pull more out of, he just wants Krishna to keep talking. Like, don't stop now, keep it flow, keep the nectar flowing. But then Krishna's like, no, I can't go further on this topic because it's too emotionally intense. So he needs to kind of shift gears. And then to keep his emotions in check, he switches gears into, this philosophy. And, like that. Then he keeps talking about his personal, he stops talking about the whole thing from the first person point of view, his own experience and his own pastimes. And he goes into the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's like that.
Yeah, it goes into Jnana again.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Like a safety valve.
Thank you. That's a nice point. The Sitarani, please.
Hi, Krishna Maharaj. I was thinking about Kasturika's question, and I was thinking of the example of Shankaracharya. I mean, he's also an incarnation of the Lord, but we don't worship him. We may follow some of his teachings, which are agreeable with our philosophy, but we don't really worship him. So similarly, from Dattatreya, we don't really worship him, but we take the essence of his teachings. Just like Chanakya Pandit says that even if a knowledge is coming from a low person, if we take it, so we don't discriminate. So I was thinking that could be the reason why he's included in the 11th chapter as Avadut Brahmana. 11th canto.
I was also thinking of that possibility, but I did like Lord, we know Shankaracharya is Lord Shiva, and there's also, but unless I get shastric confirmation of that, I didn't want to bring it up. But it's true, it's a possibility. And it was a serious possibility, I was thinking about that. That this Dattatreya plays this role of the impersonalist to encourage the impersonalist to go further on their path. That, Thank you, Mother Sitaram. That's a very good point. Anything else? Okay, then we made it. If you have time and you have the Birad Bhagavatamrita, read the purport of these verses of chapter 7 in the second part, in the verses 143 till 147. That is very revealing, because Krishna speaks also about his relationship with the gopis there, and many points come back here. I think Bhujan Prabhu, he brought it up
Sorry, Maharaj, can you repeat that again? Chapter 7.
It's a Beeld Bhagavatamrita of Sanatana Goswami has 2 parts.
Yeah.
And it's in the second part.
Yes.
The second part is if you have it in book form, you have 3 books, and it's the second and the third book. But it's in chapter 7, which is in the third book. That and there chapter 7, verses 143 to 147.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Mother Castor. Good. And see you tomorrow for the next chapter, Hamsa Avatar. And that's a very funny meeting with the sons of Brahma. That's a very interesting appearance in the forms of a swan. That deep knowledge. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna
Recording
Maharaj,
stopped.
Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Jai Prabhu.